Wellness Wednesday is a segment that provides you with health, personal, and professional wellness tips and information. This week is all about hats, and joining us to tell us more is speaker and educator Luann Alemao. So thanks so much for coming in this morning.
Oh, you're welcome, Kayla. It's always a pleasure.
And so you brought some hats today.
I did.
And what we want to talk about, I guess, first is how often do people wear hats?
Well, I'm finding in cold weather climates, I mean, it's just a practical sense to be able to wear one. I mean, hats, anytime any part of your body is exposed, you lose heat. So we lose heat out of the top of our head just like we would we wouldn't think about not wearing shoes. So it's a practical thing to do in cold weather climates. And what I'm finding is that people don't often know when to remove them and when to keep them on.
Right, and so what are some do's and don'ts? Because, we have the typical, national anthem, remove your caps, but I guess when should other people know in other circumstances?
Well, a hat can be a very professional thing too. As we're traveling from one building to the other in our work site or on a campus, we wear a hat, but hats are always removed when we go indoors. It may be full of rain or snow or dirt, but hats are not to be worn indoors. They're not to be worn at the table. And sometimes we get pretty lax in our hat etiquette, and because hats can get dirty. I mean, just look at this baseball cap. We wear it outside, we perspire in it, it gets dirty, and then we sit down and wear it at the table. And that's not really what it's supposed to do. And the other thing is, because we're such a screen society, think about the barrier that a hat puts. You're ordering your food, and we need to be making eye contact as much as we can with people, because that's really where it's at in building relationships, is that face-to-face. And with a hat on, it does create a barrier. So the waitress is speaking to a hat, they're not speaking to a person. And so that's one of the places that it needs to be removed when we wear a hat, because baseball caps are just not appropriate for every activity and event. But again, we're talking about this. This is the one I wore today. It's nice, it's warm, but I always remove it when I have a business appointment because it's an outerwear hat. One of the rules that came about was hats are really not worn after 5. Because if you go to the theater and you have a hat on, and we need to be considerate. If you're wearing a hat and you're looking at the members of the theater on the stage and there's this hat in your way, it's really not very appropriate and very considerate, because then people are not going to be able to view the stage and the performers on the stage through the hat. So, some of these are just common sense kinds of things.
Right, and so can still wear hats, but just know when and where to wear them. And so one of the things we talked about before you came on is, the types of hat with your hat face. Kind of describe that a little bit.
Well, people say to me, I look terrible in hats. I don't have a hat face. Everyone has a hat face. Men, women, all have a hat face. It's just finding the right appropriate one. And so some people need to have smaller brims, people need to have larger brims. This hat actually has sun protection in it. It's a man's hat. I mean, skin cancer is our largest growing cancer. And it's one of the reasons, hats are practical. It's one of the reasons to wear one is to help filter out the sun, especially in the summertime, and to keep us warm in the winter. And so hats are very practical, but we need to keep in mind when to wear them and when to remove them.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We'll be back right after this break.